Some footage is easy to explain, dust, shadows, camera glitches, but then there's the kind that makes even the bravest investigators run screaming. The kind of footage that police departments hide, that ghost hunters swear they'll never go back to, that makes your body run cold just looking at it. Last time we went inside some of the most terrifying haunted locations on the planet. We saw shapes that shouldn't exist, screams that shouldn't echo, and shadows that moved on their own. But the world is full of places even darker, even stranger, and even more hostile. Now I'm going deeper. I'm uncovering haunted locations with footage that will make you question reality itself, places where ghosts aren't just watching, they're waiting. The Monte Cristo Homestead. This is in New South Wales, Australia. Australia has its fair share of haunted spots, of course. You know, old asylums, decaying theaters, battlefields, but nothing compares to the Monte Cristo Homestead. Now, locals call it the house that breathes hate, basically, and the footage from inside proves that description is an exaggeration. Built in 1885 on a hill overlooking the small town of Junee, the Monte Cristo Homestead looks like the picture of colonial wealth. Iron lace balconies, grand staircases, the kind of architecture that whispers, you know, old money. But its history reads like something torn from a horror novel, a string of passings, cruelty, and very dark rituals that seem to have soaked into the walls. When Christopher Crawley built this mansion, he was already known for ruthless business dealings. Town workers said he treated servants like property. There were whispers that those who crossed him simply vanished. Now, after Crawley passed away suddenly of poisoning of some sort, his widow locked herself in the house, draping every window in black fabric and refusing to step outside for the rest of her life. She read the Bible every day, start to finish, for 40 years until she passed away sitting in the same chair. The pages open in her lap. You can't make this up. Now, visitors swear that chair still moves on its own when you say her name, but here's where it gets darker. A maid supposedly fell to her demise from the upstairs balcony, pushed, according to witnesses. A stable boy was burned alive in a barn fire, and his screams echo throughout the valley. I mean, a mentally disabled servant named Harold was also chained to the caretaker's cottage for years and eventually found deceased, curled on the floor. I mean, each time the house changed owners, more tragedies followed. And now, well, the footage, paranormal teams have actually captured light anomalies, footsteps, also disembodied voices, the usual. But the videos that keep surfacing online, well, they go beyond orbs and flickers. They show intelligence. In one clip from 2012, a woman walks through the upstairs hall holding an EMF meter. As she passes the nursery, the meter spikes into the red and the baby carriage in the room moves forward by itself. It doesn't roll downhill because the floor is flat. It's as if something invisible gave it a quick shove. Now, in another video, a cameraman filming an empty corridor screams and drops the camera. When the footage is recovered, a black figure in a Victorian dress can be seen at the end of the hall, head tilted and, you know, hands folded in front of her chest. The figure stays still until the camera shakes and then vanishes. No fade, no blur, just gone. Repeat visitors are treated differently. One psychic claims that on her second visit, she heard her own name whispered in her ear, and another reported being shoved down the stairs as well after she taunted the ghost of Mrs. Crawley. I mean, the push was so strong she actually broke her wrist. So yeah, locals say the house isn't haunted by one spirit, it's cursed by all of them. And a psychic team from Sydney once spent a night conducting an EVP session. Around 3 a.m., one of their cameras filmed shadows crawling up the walls, moving opposite the direction of the light source. I mean, the next morning, that same investigator actually woke up with claw marks across his ribs. Even skeptics admit that the Monte Cristo footage is disturbing. The current owners run, you know, guided night tours, and they've installed security cameras in every room, so guests can actually pay to review the recordings, and almost every night something moves. You know, a chair, a door slams, a reflection, you name it. So if you ever visit, you'll hear the same warning. Be polite to the Crawleys. Don't taunt them. Don't stay alone upstairs, because people who do often end up leaving with more than just a story. They leave literally with nightmares that follow them home. The Stanley Hotel in Colorado. You've probably heard of this one, and even if you didn't know, you know, it was real, well, it is. Well, the Stanley Hotel inspired the movie The Shining, which we all know, but what's less known is that the haunting started long before Stephen King ever checked in, and the evidence caught on video since then is so consistent that the hotel actively posts some of it themselves. So the Stanley sits high in the Rocky Mountains, isolated and wrapped in mist. It opened in 1909, built by inventor and entrepreneur F.O. Stanley, the man who created the Stanley Streamer automobile. Now, the hotel was meant as a luxury retreat for the wealthy, but almost immediately guests began reporting odd events: piano playing in empty rooms, children's laughters in the halls, doors closing softly when no one's there. And when F.O. Stanley passed away in 1940, staff said they continued to actually see him walking the corridors in a formal suit, checking on guests. His wife Flora loved to play the piano, and decades later, visitors still record the piano moving on its own, playing on its own, and the faint echo of those same notes house in the middle of the night. Now here's where it gets tangible, actual documented footage. In 2016, a tourist took a photo of the grand staircase inside the Stanley. When she reviewed it later, a small girl in a white dress appeared on the steps, looking directly at the camera. She wasn't there when the photo was taken, and no children were registered guests that evening. Now, the hotel's security confirmed the photo wasn't tampered with, and the figure's, outline is crisp. It's proportionate and partially translucent. Another piece of viral footage from 2021 shows a shadow figure crossing the lobby just before midnight, and the motion sensor camera recorded a dark mass gliding from left to right, triggering the lights. The manager checked the feed. No one entered or left at the time, and no light source could have caused the shadow. So guests staying in room 217, the same room that inspired, Stephen King's Nightmare, reports, that lights are turning on and off, and women's voices telling them to tidy up. I mean, that spirit is believed to be Elizabeth Wilson, a housekeeper who survived an explosion in that room in 1911. She was blown through the floor, broke both ankles, and still returned to work after recovering. I mean, guests say she tucks them in at night even, adjusts their covers, and locks the doors from the inside. Yet, some of the most convincing proof doesn't come from amateurs, it does come from the professionals as well. During one session, thermal cameras captured two bright orbs hovering inches above the piano keys. Then, the piano lid lifted by itself, no fishing line, no wind. The footage aired unedited. So the Stanley staff doesn't deny any of this. They embrace it. I mean, they've set up their own cameras, and they see curtains, shifting in empty rooms and people walking by. Even King's own experience here is chilling. I mean, during his stay, he dreamt his son was running down the long empty hall screaming as if he was chased by a fire hose that had come to life. He woke up drenched in sweat, and the next morning, he wrote The Shining. So at the Stanley Hotel, you don't need to believe in ghosts. You just need to spend one night listening, and the house will make you believe. So let me ask you this once more. Which of these haunted places would you visit if given the opportunity? Don't ask me. I'm staying very far away. But thanks so much for watching. I'm your host, Ashley. I'll see you in the next one. These demonic possessions the church refuses to acknowledge will absolutely shock you. The exorcism of Annalise Michel. Now imagine the sound of someone growing in 6 different voices, all coming from the same young woman. That's exactly what priests and witnesses reported hearing during the exorcisms of Annalise Michel, which is one of the most disturbing cases the Catholic Church has ever tried to silence. Annalise was a bright, deeply religious 23-year-old student from Germany. Now, she wasn't just any girl. She was kind, devout, and dreamed of becoming a teacher, but her life spiraled into something unimaginable after she began suffering from seizures at the age of 16. Doctors diagnosed her with temporal lobe epilepsy, which is a condition that can cause hallucinations. But as the years went on, her family and even her doctors started to notice things that just couldn't be explained by medicine. Now, Annalise began hearing voices that told her she was damned, and she claimed to see demonic faces everywhere she looked. Crosses made her recoil in pain. She couldn't even enter a church. She screamed when holy water touched her skin, and her parents described seeing her contort her body in impossible ways and bark like an animal for hours. When priests were